before I say exactly what happened, I want to give a massive thank you to everyone who helped and supported me after my accident, especially search and rescue. They worked really hard to get me off that mountain, and as soon as, when I was laying there, I was scared, but as soon as I saw them, I knew everything was gonna be okay. And they did their job really well. They made sure I was comfortable. They gave me medicine. They, just made sure I was doing well. And I'm very, very grateful they were able to, get me off that mountain safely. And I'm also very grateful for the person on 911 dispatch. I believe her name was Jessica. She stayed on the phone with me while I was waiting for search and rescue, and that helped a lot with mentally, because if I was just sitting there all alone, I would have panicked. I would not have been able to stay calm. But yeah, she helped so much. I'm very grateful. And then also to my family who took care of me while I was injured and supported me and made sure I was as comfortable as possible. Very grateful for that. And finally, to the doctors who treated me while I was in the hospital. They were actually really efficient with their job. I was surprised how efficiently they were able to do all the procedures they needed to get me diagnosed and to, tell them, just get me out of there as soon as they could. But yeah, I'm very grateful for all those people. Without them, I could still be on that mountain. This is the story of how I survived falling off a 35-foot cliff. About 6.5 weeks ago, I was hiking Grey Rock Mountain near Fort Collins, Colorado. And after summiting on that day, I fell. And the reason I fell is because I was going way too fast on rocks that were slippery because it was an extremely foggy day. And it was something about the fog that made it so that I lost my fear of heights somehow, because, I don't know, it had something to do with the fog, it seemed. Like the fog kind of just tricked me. It didn't seem like I was in a high up place. I just, I was in the cloud wonderland. And I ended up going a little bit off trail on my way down, and that section of the trail was really steep and rocky. But I knew I was off trail and I was heading back. And for some reason, I decided to walk way too fast. I was moving way faster than I should have been. And I ended up tripping, sliding down the rock, and then I ended up just falling 35 vertical feet straight onto solid rock. And I do remember slipping, although I remember it as if it was a dream. It's strange. But what I don't remember is hitting the ground, and I'm glad I don't. I immediately got knocked out after landing, and I was unconscious for an unknown amount of time. May have been at most 45 minutes. So I was really cold when I did eventually wake up, so I probably wasn't conscious for a decent amount of time. And when I woke up, it took me a while to realize what just happened and where I was. And eventually I found my phone, or I didn't find it, I saw it. It was at the bottom of this cliff, because I didn't actually fall the entire height of this cliff. It was about 45-50 feet, the full cliff. I landed on a ledge that was 35 feet down, and my phone was all the way down. And I did have a GPS that I could, use in emergencies, but I decided that I knew I would probably have service, so I really wanted to get to my phone so I could properly call 911. So I ended up having to crawl off the cliff and then down to my phone, which was, it was incredibly painful. And I ended up taking my backpack off to reduce the pain a bit, take the weight off my back, which might not have been a good idea because I had some emergency supplies in my backpack, but it was fine. Eventually I got to my phone after a lot of pain, and I was, I immediately called 911. And they ended up staying on the phone with me for the entire 3 hours that I had to wait. It was over 3 hours, about 3 hours, 15 minutes between when I called 911 and when search and rescue found me. They were planning on sending a helicopter to get me, but it was way too foggy that day. So yeah, and that was like probably some of the worst 3 hours of my life, because it was really cold. I had a rain jacket on, but I mean, it wasn't really enough. Like, I was shivering a lot and I was just in a lot of pain. And it was also really uncomfortable where I had to lay, because I was on a very steep slope where I was laying. But I ended up staying there for 3 hours, and then eventually the 911 operator said they're nearby, start shouting. So I did, and eventually the search and rescue were able to get to me. They didn't need any ropes or anything, which is good. And they loaded me onto a stretcher. And like, they had to like, at first they carried the stretcher down the steep part of the trail, and then they like wheeled it. And that process took a long time. It took it's like 5 or 6 hours, I think. And it was dark by the time I got to the ambulance at the trailhead. And then after that, I spent 2 days at the hospital. And it turns out I fractured 6 vertebrae. However, only one of those was actually significant. The rest were like very minor. And then I ended up having to wear a back brace for 6 weeks, which really sucked because it meant like I couldn't really do the activities I enjoyed. I was pretty much stuck in my house for that whole month and a half. And especially for like the first like week and a half, I had like some concussion symptoms, and I could barely walk. It was not fun, but I'm just glad that now I'm mostly fully recovered. I still have some pain, but I'm out of the brace, and I'm very happy to be back in the wilderness, you know, enjoying nature. And I'm going to be posting on this channel regularly starting now.